You know, ladies and gentlemen, coming out of my 20th rant entitled The Epic Betrayal, where Jed began to play Beth's game 100% by doing one of the dirtiest moves known to man by backdooring such a devout follower, such a devout ally in Kiefer. Someone who was willing to do moves for straight black men that we have never seen been done for people of that archetype in 20 plus years of watching Big Brother, ladies and gentlemen. Ladies and gentlemen, from a black community standpoint, we all scoffed at what Jed was attempting to do to Kiefer. Yes, there were certain people who tried to expound further on this, justify it, act as if this is the time to make the move. But I tried so hard to drive my point home very clearly. This was a premature move because for Jed's game specifically, if he wants to reach the end, it's going to be a lot harder to do so when you have all of these other players who don't have to win a thing and they can skate by and make the end. That was my initial argument. Now, we've experienced Kiefer's clapback already, a legendary rant. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I have reason to believe that this rant is going to be just as legendary because this one is entitled Kiefer's Comeback. And I can't believe this man is pulling this off. Doflamingo, it's your time. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the critically acclaimed, the Pop the Trunk podcast, now Patreon exclusively sponsored Hall of Fame. Recency Bias Radio, where no one is safe from criticism. With me, of course, is your humble host, Dave Smith, Pretty Boy Smitty, Protocol Paul, Pearl Game Ultra, Smith Dog Trio, the Rant God, Hotep Thanos, Throne Thanos, Metro Kaiba, the Pro-Black Prodigy, the Shadow Realm Shaman, all of the above on that ISET test, an ACT. You know what it is! And we are back, ladies and gentlemen, for the 21st Big Brother Canada 9 rant entitled Kiefer's Comeback. Ladies and gentlemen, wow! I am impressed, okay? I did not expect Kiefer to survive this week. My last rant was very doom and gloom. I recorded it in the middle of the night because I was so damn pissed. But ladies and gentlemen, for all the bad comes the good. For all the good comes the bad. I believe in the yin and yang. I believe that you must have balance in this world. So allow me to balance off this week's content by giving you something to look forward to, Coach. I know the last rant was something we didn't want to have to go through, right? But that's the great thing about this process. Sometimes you have to go through rants you don't want to have to do to get to the other side and experience the true triumph of witnessing a dope rant where you can actually give credit to people that you weren't giving credit to before. And so during this rant, ladies and gentlemen, I understand that a lot of people seeing Kiefer stay this week, they're looking at this from a perspective that this could be bad for Ty's game. In this rant, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to explain why this could still be good for Ty's game. I'm going to explain why the last thing I mentioned in my 20th rant was me being open to Tina going home over Kiefer and Breydon, and the fact that we're going to most likely get that outcome, ladies and gentlemen, this is the perfect timeline, in my opinion. In terms of not allowing all of these different welfare cases to be dragged to the end without having to earn it, I wasn't a fan of that. I was fully accepting of the fact that if Jed went through with this move to do Beth's move by getting rid of Kiefer this early in Final 7, it sets up a Final 6 where half of the Final 6 are white women. This gives Beth all of the pivoting prowess, it gives her all the power in the game moving forward, and it sets up Jed and Ty to fail immensely. Okay? I was trying my best to really state my case as to why that was. Okay? Now, I know a lot of people think I got an agenda against Beth, which I do. I know a lot of people think I have an agenda against Tera, which to some degree I do. But honestly, Beth is becoming so repulsive that I'm starting to respect Tera all over again. And it's because Tera, in my opinion, is who Ty will need to rely on the most next week. So understand, ladies and gentlemen, before we really get into the brass tacks, breaking down these live feeds and all that hot stuff, it's important for me to tell you all that Ty's win conditions are simple heading into next week if Kiefer stays. If Kiefer stays, he has to pivot with Tera and Breydon. He has no choice here. And if you're Tera and Breydon, you have to acknowledge the fact that, number one, okay, let's really get into the logistics of this week's vote. It's going to be 4 votes this week, meaning Kiefer had to drive the point home that he was going to Final 3 with Beth and Jed. He had to do that. Because in his mind, if he convinces Beth to vote for him to stay, but if Bray isn't with that, at worst, it's a tie. If it's a tie, Jed has to tie break. If Jed has to tie break, he will tie break to keep Keith based on the fact that Keith has driven the point home that he will take Beth and Jed. I said bed. Well, that's the only thing they do, huh? But anyway, he would take Beth and Jed with him to final three. So because of that, Kiefer has done fantastic gameplay under pressure. Now, I know what people are thinking. Victoria did fantastic gameplay under pressure. She wasn't rewarded in this way. And see, this dichotomy is where I'll give Jed some credit here. Because if they would have went through with doing Kiefer as bad as they did Vic, then they wouldn't have this morality argument of, well, we had reason to never trust you, Vic, because of how you did Toya. Everything Kiefer has done this season is out of respect for Toya. To treat him the same way you treat Vic would be almost as if you're blaming Kiefer for what Vic did to Toya. That's what didn't sit right with me, so I am happy that they are at least acknowledging the fact that Kiefer ain't no Vic. And look, Vic deserves credit. She's an all-star. She played a fantastic game, but the game she played was far too messy for her to make the end easily. She would have had to keep playing messy to keep getting there. And that's just the truth of it all. Now, Kiefer, the great thing for him is, when he initially got backdoored, he was emotional. I was emotional watching him emotional on feeds. The guy was crying about it. Ty cried after the fact. Jed shed some tears. Beth, if you really paid attention to the conversation when Kiefer was talking to Ty, Jed, and Beth, Beth was the one standing. She was the only one standing, number one. Jed and Ty sat down to see eye to eye level with Kiefer. Subtle body language is what I always pay close attention to, so I'm going to drive that point home for y'all. Keith knew from the beginning that this was Beth's move. That's why he never held a grudge with Jed specifically. That's why he took it to heart so painfully, because it's like, bro, you were my first pick. I wanted to go to the end with you and Toya. Hard body. For you to be the one to do this hurts differently, bro. If Beth would have did this to me, that's one thing. If Ty would have did it, okay, he's Team Destiny. That's another thing. But I'm Team Defender till I die, bro. I'm not the one you need to be doing this to, because I'm the one that will help you get to the end, because you're the only person I'm willing to lose to in this game, Jed. That's what Kiefer said. Now, these are the type of things that will register in Jed's mind and make him want to work with you. Now, understand, up to this point, Kiefer didn't do much late-game discussions with Jed. All he really discussed was making Final Four with Ty and Beth. To Jed, that didn't give Jed enough reassurance that he wouldn't just cut Jed before Final Three. So because of that, Jed looked at Kiefer as the biggest threat to his game amongst the other three, Tina and Tera and Kiefer. But everyone considers Kiefer the biggest threat amongst those three. But the one thing Kiefer got going for him that Tina doesn't this week, with them on the block next to each other because Tera won veto and took herself off, is the fact that Tina has been so flip-floppy all game. Tina only claims to be a sunsetter when it's convenient. Then she'll claim to be an oddball when it's convenient. She doesn't name drop enough. So this is another week in a row. A week ago, Tera had a bad campaign to stay. She still stayed anyway because she had a bigger threat next to her in Vic. This week, Tina has a bigger threat next to her in Kiefer, and conventional wisdom and based off the past, it would all suggest that she would stay over Kiefer easily. But in this unique scenario, Kiefer has pitched a unique Final Three scenario, which makes Beth and Jed have to reconsider some things. Now, here's my thought on this. I don't think Beth really wants this guy Kiefer to stay. But I think she can't really be seen as too vocally being against what Kiefer is pitching because it seems to be pitched in a way that benefits Beth too. If Beth goes against a pitch that is positioned in a way to benefit her too, it shows Beth is only in it for herself, and it should show Jed even further that Beth is full of crap, that Beth is trying to sabotage his game, not help him reach the end. And I'll get into a conversation Jed had with Beth a little bit later, which completely exposed Beth's game. But when Kiefer spoke to Jed by himself, he specifically told Jed a few things. All right, now I would like to get into the notes portion. That way I can have my facts together, and that way we could bounce off of these facts. And the reason why I want to do this is because I don't want to leave any stone unturned, and I want to make sure you all have the right amount of information to justify how Kiefer got himself out of this. Because, like I said, there are a lot of platforms that were prepared to give Jed this mastermind credit if he got Keith out. Now that they're planning on keeping Keith over Tina, there's people now flipping the narrative again saying, oh, this season is completely stupid. Now they're going to keep Keith. It's too late to keep him now. You already put him up. Send him home. Now, I'm someone who believes if I didn't want Kiefer to go initially, I still don't want him to go. Now, I think it's dumb to keep him after you attempted to backdoor him because I think Kiefer is playing all of y'all, and I'm going to get into that a little bit later, too. I think Kiefer is playing the game right now. I don't see him going to final two with no Jed or Beth. No way in HE double hockey stick, in my opinion. But let's get into the notes because I want to further expound on this with great context, right, ladies and gentlemen? By the way, do y'all like the new glasses, coach? You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? Yeah. But anyway. Now, Kiefer tells Jed he really wanted to make the end with the Sunsetters 4, not the 5, meaning not Tina. Now, this is important for his pitch because he's sitting next to Tina. Now, if you don't know, Kiefer has always called his shoes the Sunsetter 4s, and he actually used this as a punchline joke to say, I call them the Sunsetter 4s, not the 5s for a reason, because I don't need to be at the end with Tina. I think Kiefer always knew that there was a chance he could lose next to Tina just because Tina, she has not wronged anyone. Even though Tina has made no moves, sometimes, if you're sitting at the end next to someone who has wronged nobody, sometimes their case to win is better than yours because it's harder for you to justify all the dirty stuff you did. It's hard to justify the blood juxtaposed to justifying why you don't have any blood, right? It's a lot harder to do one over the other. So I think for Kiefer's game, look, balls to the wall, do everything you can to survive this week. Your family is depending on you winning this season. And honestly, I don't blame him. And I appreciate the fact that he did not give up. A lot of people expected him to fold here, but he didn't. Now, Kiefer then tells Jed about how Beth tried to phrase the scenario in a way for jury management. So if Jed is listening correctly here, Kiefer is telling him straight up that he understands that this is Beth's move, not Jed's. This is huge. Think about this. Because even if Jed finishes off Kiefer, Jed ain't going to get the credit for the move. Beth will. So in Jed's mind, why am I even getting rid of you if I'm not even going to get the credit on my resume for getting rid of you? So I'm going to get the negative side effect of a bitter jury on top of the fact that Beth gets credit for the move if I'm sitting next to her? This move doesn't benefit me at all. I think this is where Jed's brain started to turn and he started to go, wait a minute, why don't we just get rid of Tina? And isn't this what I said in my 20th rant towards the end? Wait a minute. Just get rid of Tina. Now, in my view, I didn't think there was a chance that Tina would leave over a Kiefer if they're sitting next to each other on that block. I thought it would be a similar scenario as Toya sitting next to Kiefer at the beginning of the game. I thought it would have been just too much reasons to get rid of him based off of if he reaches the end, he wins the game, right? I thought that just would have happened. But it's very interesting to see how Kiefer pitched this to Jed. Because this was huge for Kiefer staying. Because he's telling Jed he doesn't blame him for the backdoor before Thursday. This contributes to why Jed prefers him to stay. Now, Ty never wanted Kiefer to go. If he can get, and I'm talking Kiefer, one more vote to stay, it forces a tie, which means Jed keeps him. Now, the problem is here, I didn't see anyone keeping Kiefer over Tina. Oh, my fault. Problem is, I didn't see anyone keeping Kiefer over Tina left to force the tie. That was all prior to Tuesday night, ladies and gentlemen. Now it looks like Tina's campaign is so garbage, and since she refuses to say names to throw others under the bus, nobody trusts her loyalty moving forward. And I think a part of Tina knows she doesn't deserve to make the end over Kiefer, so she doesn't want to throw him under the bus while campaigning. Understand, when Tina was on the block next to Tera, she kept telling herself, no matter what, Kiefer, if you make final two, you have my vote, and I would love nothing more than to see you win this game. Kiefer and Tina were the first two players in this house. Their bond is something that is inseparable. And that's why you could argue, even though for Jed's resume, taking out Tina is a little move, it actually isn't. Because the more Jed really thinks about this move is taking out a duo and a trio at the same time. Tina, when you really look at it, she's the linchpin which connects Kiefer to Tera. If there is no Tina, Kiefer and Tera have no reason to be cool anymore. Especially after the fight they just had during the HOH comp where everyone threw the comp to Jed, correct? So this is actually ingenious because Tera can't afford to trust Kiefer. Kiefer can't afford to trust Tera. Everyone that will be keeping Kiefer this week is all the people that aren't Tera because Tera will want to keep Tina over Kiefer. Solid gameplay all around. And honestly, it actually, based off of historical context, it would make a lot of sense for Kiefer to still turn on the trio after they keep him over Tina, because that's exactly what he did to the oddballs when they chose to keep him over Toya. So, technically speaking here, that's more context as to why I believe Kiefer is playing Jed and Beth here. Because remember, when Kiefer first got thrown up, he walked up to Breydon and said, by all means, if anyone is sitting next to any member of the trio in Final Two, I'm voting for whoever is not a member of that trio, because it's a dirty move. He said that to Breydon. He also said, whoever wins the most counts amongst you trio, if y'all are sitting next to each other, that's who I'm voting for. Okay? So Kiefer has been all over the place. He tells the trio, you got to keep winning comps. Whoever wins the most comps, that's your criteria for winning. But then if you're not in the trio, you ain't got to win a damn thing. I'm just bitter. That tells me Kiefer is not going to forget how he felt in this moment when he got backdoored. He's not going to forget the shame of it all. He's not going to forget that feeling. Now, from a gameplay standpoint, I know there's going to be a lot of people saying, this was so dumb for Jed's game. Number one, you showed Kiefer you're willing to backdoor him. Now you give Kiefer incentive to backdoor you back. On top of that, you're not going through with it. You're taking out Tina over him. So now you're keeping an enemy and you're keeping someone who can beat you at the end. Now, here's the other side of it, though. For Jed's game, he can't compete in the next HOH. Beth has every reason to throw the next HOH. So the way Jed is looking at this is, at least I got Kiefer and Ty fighting to keep me safe because I can't protect myself over keeping a Tina. Tina's not going to fight to keep me safe. Tina's just going to be another number along with Tera and possibly a Breydon that comes after me. That doesn't benefit my game. That only benefits Beth's, right? So kudos to you, Jed, for figuring out, hey, I'd rather you be late than never, right? And in this situation, Jed is very late than never. He should have never went through with backdooring Kiefer in the first place. But here's where I'll be devil's advocate. Here's where I'll say there was no other option for him but to backdoor Keith and then reconvene later. And this is what I also mentioned in the last rant, but I thought there was no way that Keith would be able to be back on side with him after this move. This is why I assumed Bray was the only move to backdoor and then get rid of Tina after putting up Bray. But if you really look at how the numbers shake out, if they're so worried about this trio coming back together, throwing up Bray allows Kiefer and Tera to vote as a voting block to keep Tina, forcing a tie no matter what. Now, I get it. You can argue, well, Jed could just be the one to send Tina home. Either way, Bray and Keith still stay, and you don't ruin anything with Kiefer. Yeah, but also in Jed's mind, he doesn't want the extra blood of having to send someone home in a tiebreaker fashion. That could also be poor jury management. That's why Beth didn't want to have to force the tie to get rid of Vic. She didn't want the sole responsibility, the sole blood of sending Vic home. That's why she fought so hard to make sure that it would be a unanimous 6-0 vote. No. So I'm mentioning all of this to show you all that the smarter move for a HOH is always to position the votes to either be unanimous or majority in a way that doesn't make you stick out like a sore thumb for being the one who's pushing a sole agenda. Victoria did a great job of doing that with Toya, but unfortunately she did way too many things on feeds to show that she had a personal problem with that sister. Beth did a lot of things on feeds to show she had a personal problem with Vic in a similar fashion, and that's why we don't allow her to escape the "it's just gameplay" tag. Now, so let's continue. So like I said, Ty never really wanted Kiefer to go. And at the end of the day, Kiefer was relying on a tie vote prior to Tuesday night because he didn't think it was a chance that he would legit stay. But he was really just trying to drive the point home. Hey, if I can get Ty and Beth's vote, I can stay. If I can just keep driving it home, I want this Final Four with these three, I can stay. I can't rely on Tina and Tera anymore. I can stay, right? So at the end of the day, no one really trusts Tina because she refuses to say names. And I think a part of Tina wants Kiefer to win at the end, and that's why she isn't campaigning as much. Now, Jed and Beth over the weekend were specifically targeting Kiefer, believing he was more loyal to everyone else than he was to Jed. My true opinion on this, and this is something I haven't mentioned yet, but I want to really expound on this. I believe Jed remembers the fact that Kiefer has always tried to paint a target on Rohan because he has always claimed that Rohan has been wealthy outside of the game. Kiefer is someone who firmly believes that the person who wins the game should be someone who actually needs the money. I don't necessarily disagree with that thought process, but I could see why someone with Jed's background would take exception to it and why he would look at Kiefer as a massive threat to him, especially after Rohan left. Also keep in mind, Jed has bragged about growing up with all of these different cars that his family owned, okay? So Jed has made a mistake in being a recruit of bragging about certain means. And Tera is going out of her way to talk about how she hates the fact that she has a specific vehicle, but Ty and Jed have this great car back at home. So there's a lot of animosity behind the fact that these two successful black men are living successful black lives. And I don't want to make this too racial. I'm just saying that there's clearly some dynamic here of the entitled looking at these black men as entitled because they earned what they have. It's actually very ironic, but let's continue. Now, Jed knew Keith hated Roe and didn't want Roe to win the game because he had money. Jed, being someone who's come from money himself, had to have become somewhat paranoid over Kiefer targeting him for the same reasons. So for Jed and Beth now to all of a sudden see the value in Keith is very bizarre to me, in keeping Keith. Is production interfering here? Because Beth should want Tina in the game every time over Kiefer. So make no mistake about it, keeping Keith is still Beth's move because they can't keep him without Beth forcing the tie or them getting Breydon to vote with them making it 3-1. And that's my prediction. I believe they're going to pretty much convince Breydon to vote with them to create the 3-1. Now, if I'm Breydon, the smarter move for me is to force the tie to force Jed to get more blood on his hands. In my opinion, that's the smarter move. Because if you can force Jed to send Tina home himself, if you're not connected to that move, Bray, then don't you have more pivoting prowess if you're Breydon to work with Tera the next week? Now, for Breydon, he might want to get dragged to the end just like Tina wanted to. So in his mind, let me go ahead and force this 3-1 vote. I'm making Final 5 regardless. Ain't no one coming after me before Tera or Jed or Kiefer, right? So in Breydon's mind, I'm better off just sticking to this group because I'll never go before this group if someone other than this group wins power. That might be Bray's long-term win conditions. I'm just going to stick to y'all until everyone is forced to target all of y'all and then I can be the last remaining survivor of it. That might be his thought process. But I do expect Breydon to vote with them. I'm 75% leaning towards Breydon's going to vote with them, force the 3-1. Now, there is still a chance that Beth could work with Bray, flip back, vote with Tera, make it 3-1 against Kiefer, and send Kiefer right back out that damn door. In my opinion, that is still possible. I'm giving y'all hope by saying Kiefer is attempting a comeback here of immense proportions, but I'm also not foolish. I'm also not sold on Beth all of a sudden acting like she likes Kiefer. Keep in mind, after all these people were crying over Kiefer being backdoored, Beth was the one in the cut, laughing about it like Doflamingo, practicing her Final 2 speech. How does someone go from practicing a Final 2 speech to all of a sudden wanting to keep the person that they practiced the Final 2 speech believing they were leaving? Those two things don't add up to me. That's why I believe Beth is attempting to save face here, and I think Beth only wants to keep Kiefer now because I think in her mind she can substitute Kiefer for Rohan in the Final 5 she initially wanted. Remember a couple of weeks ago? Remember I told you all about how Beth had a desire to be in Final 5 with Rohan and Breydon on one side, Ty and Jed on the other? Well, now Rohan's gone. Now she's pretty much substituted Kiefer in that Rohan spot next to Breydon. Next to Breydon. And now she has Ty and Jed over here. But with that said, she still has Tera in the middle by herself. At least it appears that way. Tera won't target Beth anytime soon. Tera has told Beth she would love nothing more than for two strong women to be at the end. Okay? And Beth has even made Jed aware of that. And we're going to get into that conversation a little bit later. That's going to be towards the end, ladies and gentlemen. But understand, Beth has put her foot in her mouth more ways than one here. And if Jed is smart, he's going to start thinking of a future that doesn't incorporate her, because she sure as hell is thinking of a future that don't incorporate you. Now, this Final 4 reassurance from Kiefer is really all he can do. Jed is saying nothing is set in stone just because his jury management is terrible as of now. Crazy thing is, Kiefer would actually be loyal to Jed if he stayed, but this just shows me he would have possibly taken out Beth or Tera if he had never been backdoored over Breydon at all. Further justifying why I thought it was dirty to backdoor Keith in the first place. Kiefer then tells Jed he will need to win out, and he has his vote at the end if he makes it. After Kiefer walks out, Jed appeared happy about the conversation, but not real focused on saving Kiefer at all. This conversation was all about saving Jed's game. Jed deserves some credit here, though, for flipping this meeting into his advantage right before the siesta party. I think him doing this before the party was solid strategy, I'm talking about Kiefer, because it allowed the house to have a good time and forget about the game for an hour or so. Kiefer being so calm in this position is the reason why his game isn't done yet. Now, Kiefer tells Tera if he stays, he has to protect Jed, meaning Tera has no incentive to vote to keep. Oh, my fault. So Tera has no incentive to vote to keep Kiefer over Tina, especially since Tera had an outburst towards Kiefer which involved Jed. And let's be real here, production is going to do everything in their power to try to help Tera win this game, because she is now the underdog of the entire season, especially if Tina goes this week over Kiefer. This will only make production want to help Tina out more. So do not be surprised if that black ball Tera found in the ball pit is a hidden twist. Do not be surprised if they had tried to rig this late game for Tera to win it. And don't be surprised if she's sitting at the end next to Beth and Beth loses the game next to Tera. All of these things are possible timelines, ladies and gentlemen. All right? So I could also argue that if Tera just keeps her mouth shut and doesn't engage in multiple arguments over the last couple of weeks, Kiefer would have a 0% chance to stay right now over Tina. But because she chose to argue with Keith over everyone else, she made Kiefer look more detached from Tera than he actually was, helping Kiefer and hurting Tina on accident. Also, don't forget, Tera also hurt Tina's game during the fight with Vic. So if Tina goes home on Thursday, it's due to Tera as much as anything else. Kiefer deserves credit for talking his way into possibly staying, but Tera deserves a lot of blame from Tina fans just the same. And these are bars, coach. These are bars. If you're a legit Tina fan, I don't want to see you mad at Kiefer, because he's on the block next to her, and you got to save yourself in that situation. All the mistakes Tera made from being rattled the past couple of weeks, in my opinion, made it a lot easier for this house to realize that we got to at least cut Tera's ride or die ally in Tina, right? If Tera keeps her head on straight, maybe Tina doesn't look like someone that they got to cut now, and that's my point. And this is why towards the end of my Jadreo rant, I said, why not send Tina home? Because I knew that was the only way for everybody to get what they want without creating a bitter jury in the process. Now Tina joins the jury, and the jury will just look at her as being dumb for not campaigning well enough. Plus, I don't want to see Kiefer following Rohan into the jury house, because everyone will just use that to claim he made mistakes in the game. The trio saving Kiefer in this situation justifies Kiefer's moves the entire season to protect them. And it at least separates what they did to Vic from what they didn't do to Kiefer. Okay? So from a continuity standpoint, it at least keeps these brothers from being the complete villains of the edit that production would have painted the light of them of being if they would have really gotten Kiefer out here. In my opinion, that's what the edit would have looked like. All of these things are great, and from a gameplay perspective, it's top tier being able to realize Keith has to go up to guarantee the three don't have control over evicting Breydon to save Tina, and because Keith has been loyal and Tina has been so fake, I see nothing wrong with keeping Kiefer here because everybody sees he's a threat to win. Plus, Tina has unwavering loyalty to Tera, who announced herself as the Sunsetter's enemy, whereas Kiefer doesn't really have unwavering loyalty to Tera if Tina isn't around. His unwavering loyalty is to Sunsetters if Tina isn't around. And at the end of the day, Tina really, for the longest, has been the one holding this alliance back, in my opinion. You know, because she's been the one with information who could have compromised so many games up to this point. And that's why they will need to keep this under wraps that they're blindsiding her. Because if I'm Tina, I have enough information to cause the entire house to blow up. You know, but then again, Tina got to keep that same energy she kept with Kiefer. When Kiefer thought he was going home and when he initially planned to blow up several games on his way out, Tina told him to keep his mouth shut to not ruin her game in the process. Isn't Tina now forced to follow her own strategy by not blowing up games to hurt Kiefer and Tera on her way out? I think Tina is forced to keep her mouth shut and leave the game with her head held high, you know. Now, Kiefer will have to win out as much as Jed has to, but Tina could have thrown every comp and made the end regardless. That's important to mention here. At this stage of the game, you don't want that many players getting welfare checks. You want as many people to have targets on their backs as possible so your game isn't so obvious for others to want to stop. Look, I get it. For Tychon's game, after Jed backdoors Keith, it's probably best Keith leaves so Ty can save Tina. Well, Ty can have Tina. But if Tina isn't winning anything, she can't keep Ty safe, so Ty can't depend on her anyway. It's a wash. Meaning his only move is talking more to Tera, who will be there next week if Tina goes or not. So while most believe Ty's game is screwed, with Kiefer staying, I don't. In fact, I believe Kiefer is lying his ass off right now to Jed and Beth. I believe he has to see Jed as the only person that could beat him at the end. I also believe the same Kiefer who wasn't willing to vote for any member of the trio at the end is still there. I just believe he is controlling his emotions because he has no choice right now while he's on the block. In Kiefer's pitch to Beth, Kiefer made it sound like he would target Ty to earn his way to the final 3. Beth loves that because she's been turning on Ty since jury started. More facts. More facts. I just don't get why Beth would keep Kiefer now when she was so happy after the epic betrayal. She was preparing a final 2 speech after Kiefer got backdoored, but now she's talking like she wants Kiefer to make the end. This tells me Beth is the biggest flop of the season because strategically, she should have the same unwavering reason to take out Kiefer that she had for Vic. This tells me Beth has substituted Kiefer for Rohan in her ideal Final 5 plans with Tina leaving, meaning Beth now wants the Final 5 of her, Keith, Ty, Jed, and Breydon. If Beth believes she has Tina and Tera's votes, as long as she isn't next to Kiefer, then it makes sense for her to want to turn Keith, Ty, and Jed on each other for her to sneak Breydon into Final 2. Problem is, I see a scenario where Beth loses to Breydon depending on how she betrays these 3 Sunsetter men. If she, excuse me, if she doesn't go to Final 2 with Jed, Ty, or Keith, I think all of them could reward a non-Sunsetter over her. Depending on how it's played out, I could see that, Coach. Now, if Tera spoils the party and makes Final 5 over someone else not named Breydon, then she either won HOH or veto. Ideally, I want Ty to win, so I wouldn't mind a Ty HOH next, but I would prefer Ty winning the Final 4 HOH more. So I'm thinking Ty's best case scenario is pivoting with Tera and working with her to target Jed and Keith. Technically, Jed and Keith are the biggest threats to win the game in Tera's mind. It behooves Bray, Ty, and Tera to pivot together next week to guarantee someone goes after Jed and Keith. I believe Bray can be swayed easier than Tera. That's the reason why I prefer her winning HOH next. And if everyone succeeds in keeping Kiefer over Tina, it should tell Tera she's alone, and hopefully Tina tells Tera she can trust Ty moving forward based off conversations Ty had with Tina. This is one of the only paths I see for Ty to win the game. Either he himself wins the next HOH and takes out Keith, Jed, or Beth, or he gets Tera or Bray to do it themselves. Yeah, I know I made this rant real good. I know I did. Alright? I want y'all thinking before tomorrow night, alright? And please believe we double tapping. We got that challenge finale tonight, Coach. With Beth most likely throwing HOH because she wants Kiefer doing the dirty work of taking out Tera or Ty, and with Jed being the outgoing HOH who can't compete, this creates a scenario where Jed and Beth will have to rely on Kiefer solely to win HOH to protect them. If they would have evicted Kiefer and kept Tina, they would have been sitting ducks if Ty had not kept them all safe. So this all goes back to my initial reasons for saying taking out Kiefer in Final 7 was premature. You still need him to make Final 5. If Tina makes Final 6, the likelihood of Jed or Beth not making Final 5 increases. With Kiefer making Final 6, at least there's another massive target and shield left for Tera or Breydon to go after, not named Jed or Ty. Big facts, but once again, Jed should have known all of this before before the veto ceremony. This shows how dumb Jed is as a recruit to be this late to realize all of this. We realized all of this on Friday morning. Why did it take Jed Tuesday night to figure this out? Why are you 4 days behind, Coach? You know what I'm saying? Like, what are we doing here? Now, but doesn't this further show how emotional Beth's gameplay is? She talked Jed into this move when Ty wasn't feeling it. Eventually, Jed co-signed the move, forcing Ty to as well. Now she's acting like she's okay with Kiefer staying, but for Jed's game, this still looks bad. It shows he did all of this just for Beth. It gives Beth the chance to act like she saved Kiefer by being one of the 3 votes to keep him, and it makes Jed look like the one most against Keith from an optic standpoint. And because Keith was too smart to fall for Beth's games before he even thought he would stay, I believe Keith is playing everyone. I think the no-brainer move for everyone next week is targeting Jed and Beth. Without a doubt. How does anyone in the game left not target Jed and Beth, not split them up? For Ty's game, you want Jed in the game without Beth. For Tera's game, you want Jed out the game without Beth. For Breydon's game, you want Jed out the game without Beth. Okay, for everybody's game, for Kiefer's game, he may feel like he has to honor this deal next week. So for Kiefer's game, he might have to target Tera and Breydon. But as a Ty supporter, I don't care about that, and that's why I wanted Kiefer to stay at the beginning of the week. So at the end of the day, everything points in the right direction to me. The only way I think Jed goes home is if Tera wins HOH. I think there's an opportunity that he could go home if Kiefer wins HOH. Kiefer could backdoor him. But outside of those 2 things, I think pretty much the gameplay is starting to heighten a bit. I thought if Tina would have stayed and Kiefer would have left, gameplay would have immediately just plummeted. I think by Kiefer staying, we're going to have one of the better looking final sixes in game history, in my opinion. Because Tera has now earned her place in Final Six. I don't care how I feel about her. She earned her spot by winning the veto. Kiefer is proven to be one of the most all-around, well-rounded players of all time. Ty, come on. We don't got to say much about Ty. Ty pulled Excalibur out of the damn stone. Jed's still in the sunken place, but we believe he can rehabilitate if we send Beth to the Shadow Realm. Beth, fantastic puppeteer marionette gameplay, but it's all gone against you because Jed is reneging. So at the end of the day, Beth, you would have had a mastermind at it if you would have got rid of Kiefer. Now Kiefer staying tells me Beth might not make the end now. So that's good for people who hate Beth too. So please smash that like button because I'm breaking down every single path this game could go down, ladies and gentlemen. And I'm trying my best not to rely too much heavy on the feed. On the notes from the feeds. But it's important for me to incorporate both here, because I believe when I mix the two together, it is the perfect concoction, ladies and gentlemen. Now, so like I said, based on Beth's conversation with Jed earlier today, after Jed spoke to Kiefer, Beth doesn't want to keep Kiefer, but she has to act like she's okay with keeping him. Okay? That's why I think production might want Kiefer to stay over Tina a little bit too. There's something to this that doesn't add up right. Because Beth has all the power here. All Beth has to do is to go up to Breydon and say, look, we're not keeping Kiefer. It's only 4 votes. Tera is not voting for Kiefer to stay over Tina. All Beth has to do is walk up to Tera and Breydon and see in this conversation I'm gonna break down how she has an affinity for Tera and Breydon. And she even mentions this to Jed. And Jed, you need to be paying attention. And he did pay attention. And this is why I'm going to give Jed credit. But let's get into this conversation fully before I really expound. Because I'm finna go off in a second. All right, here we go. Now, Beth is mentioning stuff like, what if Bray becomes spooked by us keeping Kiefer? Okay? So this is clearly telling me that Beth is worried from a jury management standpoint and from a gameplay standpoint that she can't justify keeping Kiefer after backdooring him over Bray. Okay? And for Bray, someone that Beth has promised would be within their Final Four, keeping Kiefer keeps someone who is in that Final Four over Bray. Bray would not want Kiefer to stay. But if Beth is staunch in this flip of keeping Keith, Bray don't really have a choice. And that's why I'm telling y'all, I don't think Beth really wants Kiefer to stay. But I think in her mind, she has to give Jed something because Jed was willing to ruin his game for her. But she's going to show you in this conversation how selfish she is anyway. We're going to get there. Now, here we go. Now, Beth also kept trying to drive the point home that Kiefer is no different than Vic, but Jed believes since Kiefer has been a day one ally who swore on his family to stay loyal, which he didn't do all game until now, showing he means it. And this is the first time Kiefer has mentioned anything past Final Four with Jed, so that also tells Jed that Kiefer is serious. All of these things makes him believe him more than he would have ever believed Vic. Jed believes Tina and Tera would always take Beth and Ty to Final Four over him, but if Kiefer and Tera are there, he expects Keith to keep him over Ty. That's what this is all about, ladies and gentlemen. This is all about making sure Jed outlasts Ty when the time comes. Jed believes if he would have kept Tina, Ty would have outlasted him. He believes keeping Kiefer guarantees he outlasts Ty. We'll see about that. I'm not too sure about that. Because if production's on Tera's side, I think Ty could outlast you, Jed. I think he could. But once again, I don't want to get too ahead of myself. Now, once again, so Jed believes Tina and Tera would always take Beth and Ty to Final Four over him, but if Keith and Tera are there, he expects Keith to keep him over Ty. That's what this is all about. Also, Keith is willing to throw Tera under the bus, but not Tina. It's also very telling that Jed chose to speak to Beth about keeping Kiefer before telling Ty a thing. And Ty was the only person who wanted to keep Keith to stay the entire time. Beth tells Jed to lie to Ty about why he's keeping Kiefer because she doesn't want Ty to know that they have begun to exclude him from their late game. So now Beth is trying to get Jed to fully turn on Ty. So if she can't get you to fully turn on Kiefer, she wants you to fully turn on Ty. You got to fully turn on one of these guys to prove yourself to me. That's Beth's game. I'm willing to turn on any black woman I see, so you need to be willing to turn on any man of color you see, Jed. That's Beth's game. But not Breydon, though. He's off limits. Everyone else, Turn on them, Jed. That's Beth's game. Because that's the person Beth wants to beat at the end. Breydon. Breydon or Tera. And she's looking at it. By keeping Kiefer this week over Tina, that's another person Beth may have had a chance to beat that she can't beat now. Tina. But maybe Beth believes she couldn't beat Tina at the end. Maybe she thought she did too much dirty stuff. I don't know. It's also very telling that Jed chose to speak to... Oh, I already said that. Sorry about that, ladies and gentlemen. I'm trying my best not to repeat stuff. Then Beth asks Jed if she wins Final 6 HOH, what should she do? Now, here's the best part of the night, ladies and gentlemen. Here's the part of the rant all the fans have been waiting for. This is when Beth put her foot in her mouth, something serious. All right, in the black community, when someone cooks something really good, we say they put their foot in it. Well, she put her foot in the mouth and it didn't taste good. It was funky. Now, listen to this story. Beth asks Jed if she wins Final 6 HOH, who should she nominate? Jed says she should throw up Breydon and Tera. So understand, Beth is asking if I win HOH tomorrow night on Thursday, who should I throw up? Jed is saying Breydon and Tera. All right? Beth tells him that's not good for her game because if Jed doesn't make the end, she will need those two. Are you serious, Beth? See, this is the proof. Beth's only chance of winning the game is next to Tera or Breydon. But I think Tera beats you. I think Tera washes you. I think Tera's story beats your story. I think Tera can also use the white girl crying technique that you will rely on very heavily, which will negate what you're doing there from the emotional standpoint. I think Tera also has kids. I think Tera also has the story involving her brother, where she won the veto that week. Big story. Big resume builder there. Now, unfortunately, this happens to also be the same week where she lost her closest ally, but that can also be used to build up her case as to the reason why she deserves to win more. She was by herself in Final 6 and made Final 2 somehow. And see, that's the thing, Beth. What you're not calculating is the underdog narrative will be used to justify why Tera beat you in Final 2. The underdog narrative will be used to justify why Breydon beat you. If he just wins one comp before Final 2, I think Breydon will beat you. Because, Beth, you've only won one comp. And that one comp, you went about it in such a cowardice way. You didn't want the blood. So that's the one thing her and Jed have in common. And that's the one thing I'm starting to see. Jed's unwillingness to take all of the blood on his hands for the move to backdoor Kiefer is the same unwillingness Beth had to take all the blood for targeting Vic. Jed is really using all of Beth's talking points to play beta male towards Kiefer. Now that he's reneging on that, it is making me more accepting of Jed a bit, and because I saw Jed's family on Latoya's live stream on Instagram, that also made Jed appear a lot more likable because his family is very lovely, very wholesome, very likable. And I must admit, seeing them speak the way they do, it makes me want to be less hard on the brother because he was set up to play this way because he is a recruit. But with that said, as long as Kiefer stays, we'll tackle next week. real talk, man. Hey, I don't care as long as Kiefer stays. And hey, for all of the fans that are mad at me for this take, weren't y'all the same Kyle fans that just didn't care how Kyle stayed as long as he stayed? Weren't y'all the same fans who didn't care how Austin stayed as long as she stayed? Weren't y'all the same fans who wanted Rohan to stay as long as he stayed, right? But then when we say we don't care how Kiefer stays as long as he stays, then people go, "Oh, you guys, you don't care about you don't care about the game being played at the highest level. You're taking favorites." You know, it's funny to me. It's like, but you had your favorites too. Just because they're in the Shadow Realm and you ain't got no Monster Reborn card, don't mean I shouldn't be happy about the fact that that my fave has one. My fave got 3 of them cards in his deck. You feel it, dig me? It's not my fault that your fave didn't have none in his. You feel it, dig me? It ain't my fault your fave ain't got no star chips. But anyway. So Beth really let it slip out of her mouth that it's not good for her game to throw up Breydon and Tera next week. So this is basically her telling Jed to his face she's going to throw the HOH that he needs her to win to back up his, which should further tell Jed how little Beth cares about him making the end. So isn't that interesting? Okay? No, I want to get back into these notes before I further expound. I'm going to expound. But anyway, so look at this. Jed almost went through with backdooring his own team captain to please this woman just for her to tell him she can't afford to throw up Tera or Breydon next. So this woman can make sense out of Jed backdooring a sunsetter before Final Five. But she cowers at the idea of taking one for the team, just like she tried to make Jed do this week, towards a non-sunsetter. If Jed doesn't see he's being used now, he never will see it. This woman is telling Jed to his face she cares more about her jury management than she cares about him making the end. Damn, brother. But this is the woman you simping over. This is an L. And I would love to go deeper, but I'm not going to out of respect for your family. I'm not. But at the end of the day, this is an L. All right? Now, what Jed is proposing here is standard Big Brother. But because Beth feels she makes Final Five regardless, she has every reason to throw the next HOH. So her fighting back on this plan makes sense. But wouldn't it have just been smarter, Beth, to agree to do that, but then just throw the HOH? Wouldn't you please Jed? Make him believe you're willing to play his game simultaneously, all the while throwing it and abandoning him in a light way? You do know if you don't win the next HOH, Jed will be able to, well, a smart player, a super fan. Let me not say what Jed can or cannot do because he's a recruit. And I know Anthony Douglas was a recruit, but there's different gravy between Anthony and Jed here. My point is, if Anthony Douglas is in this game, he immediately discerns what you're up to here, Beth. Immediately. Jed, not so much. You're exploiting that with Jed. You're using that against him. That's why I said from the start, she chose Jed for a reason. Jed is the dumber player. When it came to Jed and Ty, she was trying to pick the... Look, even from the start, Ty knew that this was just a fling. He knew this wasn't serious. But it was the fact that Ty understood the game better than Jed. That's what made it harder for Beth to play Ty down the road. She knew Ty would take it more personal because Ty would see through it. Jed, he might get played and believe that Beth never played him. Even if he is the jury house, he might not believe it. You know? And it's all because of your experience. I always say this, a superfan's game is the late game. Because a superfan knows what to expect. So a superfan knows how to work certain weeks. Superfan knows that Final Four HOH is the most important HOH in the damn game. You can have that Final Five HOH. I'm going to figure out a way out of that. You can have that. I want that Final Four one. And that's why I'm telling y'all, for Ty's game, he needs Tera to win Final Five HOH. He needs Tera to take that shot so it doesn't hurt his jury management. That he needs the Final Four HOH. That way he's safe for Final Three, but he ain't got to be the one to decide who goes home either. You see that? That's what Ty needs. Actually, Final Four HOH, you do decide who... Actually, no. The person who's off the block decides who goes home. Exactly. So, once again, it's good for his jury management all around. Ty needs to be ducking that Final 5 HOH. If he can, go for the Final 4 HOH. All right, but let's get back to Beth, though. I don't want to lose myself here, Beth. You're full of crap. So, because Beth feels she makes Final 5 regardless, she has every reason to throw the next HOH, so her fighting back on this plan makes sense. But the smarter plan would have just been to act like you would throw up Breydon and Tera, but just not win the HOH. That was the opportunistic play. But Beth actually caught herself being honest for a second with Jed. Isn't that interesting? She's actually honest for a second, but that one split second of her being honest showed how little of a team player she is. She's selfish as hell. Everybody kept Breydon around for Beth's game. Kiefer went up over Breydon for Beth's game. Now Beth is acting like Breydon and Tera can never touch the block on her watch, further showing she is no longer a sunsetter at heart. All of these things are exposed, okay? Beth says Tera and Breydon are really wonderful for her game, but taking them out would be playing Jed's game. Wait, what? So the woman who convinced Ty and Jed to be okay with backdooring Vic in a dirty manner, which looked worse on those black men, by the way, because they did the black woman dirty. Let's keep it real. Beth knew that. This is the same woman who convinced Jed to do an indigenous man of color the same dirty way. And only because Jed begins to see the light because he realizes this is Beth's move and not really his for his own win conditions, only then does Beth go, okay, I'm open to keeping Kiefer. But you know I'll never target Breydon and Tera, though. So this is the same woman who convinced you to backdoor Kiefer so you can make the end, but she's the same woman saying that she puts Tera and Breydon on a pedestal above you, Jed. You allow her to get away with doing these three things simultaneously, See, this is why we need more straight black men as super fans. Because a straight black male super fan, oh, he's going to sniff that out immediately. And the Shadow Realm will await your dumb ass. You try to play one of us like that. But with a recruit, that stuff can fly. Now, so like I said, she says it would be playing Jed's game to do those things. But she was perfectly fine forcing Jed to play her game for community sugar walls. And since Jed is just a recruit, not a super fan, he can't see through Beth's BS fast enough to see she is trying to sabotage his game because she knows she can't beat him at the end. Do you see that, Jed? She's trying to make you play as dirty as she played towards Vic. So if she happens to be at Final 2 next to you, she can beat you. That's what it's about. Up to this point, if you would have went through with sending Kiefer home, you would have participated in such a dirty move that you would have been looked at as more dirty than Beth was for her Vic move. That's why she wanted you to do it specifically. She knew she couldn't get Ty to do that. Now that Kiefer's staying, only because he promised to take you and Beth to Final 3, which is once again something that benefits Beth. Once again, the only way Beth allows you to have your way is if it benefits her, but she's telling you she can't possibly do one thing that only benefits you. How is this a relationship you're okay with, Jed? Nothing is being reciprocated 50% both ways. Like, real talk, Beth is running this. And I got to give her credit for running it. But I got to give Jed credit for standing his ground towards the end of this conversation. That's what we're going to get to. That's why she refuses to turn on Breydon or Tera, because she would rather be in the final with them over Jed. Wake up, Jed. She's not that into you. Eventually, Jed gets woke by saying to Beth, so ultimately, wanting Kiefer out was better for your game than because you don't want Breydon out. I was like, uh-oh, wait a minute. You feel me? When Jed said that, I said, wait a minute. This dude has swallowed the sensu bean. All of a sudden, he has become the prince who was promised. All of a sudden, he has realized the error of his ways. All of a sudden, the red pill has been used and Red Jed redemption has returned. Is this the beginning of his rehab? You feel it, dig me? This is what I started to think. Because up until this point, I didn't see him question her like this. Then Beth says, I don't know yet, but I like what you're saying. What kind of reply is that? Hold up. This dude just said, so wanting Kiefer out was better for your game because you don't want Breydon out. And your response to that is, I don't know yet, but I like what you're saying. Beth, you treating Jed like you trust him as much as Vic. What you mean you don't know yet? You've been trying to convince this man the last 7 days to get Kiefer out. Now he wants to keep Kiefer. Then you tell him you refuse to target Breydon and Tera because that would be playing his game after he just refused to play your game by getting Kiefer out. And now you're telling him, I don't know yet, but I like what you're saying when you're clearly telling him Breydon is higher up the totem pole than Kiefer because you told him to backdoor Kiefer over Breydon? Beth, do you really think Jed is this dumb? She thinks Jed is dumber than he actually is to say some of this stuff to his face. I don't know yet, but I like what you're saying. That's basically saying, yeah, Jed, Breydon is higher up the totem pole than Kiefer. That's what she's saying. So that Final 3 deal we just made with Kiefer, if I had it my way, I wouldn't stick to it, because I don't want to be in Final 2 with you or Kiefer. That's what Beth is saying, Jed. Come on. It's common sense. This is what she's really saying. We need an urban dictionary for Big Brother live feeds. I'll take the job. I might be one of the funniest translators of all time because I can truly break this down in layman's terms. That's what she's telling you. And since Kiefer already incepted the idea into Jed's mind that this is Beth's move for Beth's game to backdoor Kiefer, Jed connecting this dots after speaking to Kiefer is no coincidence, in my opinion, because Beth put her own foot in her mouth. Oh, I hope she's the next boot. Wouldn't that be the funniest stuff in the world? And she over here plotting her Final 2 speech, and she's the Final 6 boot. Oh, man, that would be the greatest TV. Y'all might have the most ratings ever if she's booted that next Thursday. I'm just saying, Global. By the way, it's really sad what happened to Nikki Graham. Rest in paradise, Nikki Graham. You are a very entertaining player of the game. She played both Big Brother UK, and she also played Big Brother Canada. She came into the game with Tim. I believe that was during BBCAN9 To this day, one of my favorite Big Brother Canada seasons ever because of the Pax Bros, because of Mighty Mitch, Raul. A lot of fantastic players played on that season, ladies and gentlemen. A lot of players that we have forgotten about over time. But I just wanted to take this time out to give condolences to her family. And it's just sad, man. If any of y'all are going through an eating disorder of any kind, please seek help. There are people in this world that love you. Never forget that. All right. But to get back to these feeds for a second, Beth revealed to Jed that Tera expects Beth to turn on the trio. Tera has told Beth she will never throw her up. Why would Beth admit this to Jed? You see what I'm saying? This is so dumb. After Tera has exploded on the entire house saying that she would vote for Jed to win over everybody, which should have told Beth Jed can't make the end as well, you have Beth telling Jed that she's putting Tera and Breydon on a pedestal and she will never target them after Tera has declared to the entire world she's after Jed. If this isn't Beth telling Jed to his face that she's now his enemy, I don't know what else is. And this is why I wish Jed had the type of acumen Ty does for the game. Jed would be pivoting right now against Beth to work with Ty and Kiefer for the final three. Let's duke it out amongst us three men. I'm not willing to lose to anyone but you two. That would be the greatest final three ever. That would be the final three we really deserved during BBCAN7. Real talk, let's be real. Kira didn't deserve to be there. And that's what I was worried about this season. I was worried another Kira would be dragged to the end. This season, it seems like people are waking up. Seems like people are understanding that if y'all don't stay loyal to the Soyalty Alliance all the way into the last possible second, you are keeping the door ajar to someone that's not part of your alliance winning the game off sentiment alone. Off narrative alone. That's not what you want. You want to be happy with whoever wins, especially if they helped you get it. You know? That's just how I feel. So at the end of the day, Tera also said she wants to sit at the end next to a strong woman, so Beth uses this information to tell Jed that Tera is gunning for Jed over everybody left, even Ty, which once again doesn't make sense. So hold up. If Beth acknowledges the fact that Tera wants Jed out over everyone else, why does Beth prioritize not targeting Tera to not play Jed's game? This is Beth attempting to play both sides in Jed's face because she thinks he's too dumb to see her for who she is. If she isn't playing Jed's game, that means she's closer to Tera than Jed because Jed needs Tera gone. Jed should be flipping. And that's how I feel on this, ladies and gentlemen. I feel like Jed is being played immensely, and I've never seen a showmance that was this weird, right? This late in the game, if a showmance lasts this long, they usually are madly in love with each other. There usually is like this unwavering loyalty. It feels as if Jed is willing to have that. It feels like Beth, not so much. And it's just so weird seeing a showman's partner try to manipulate their other showman's partner to ruin their game because their game is so bad on its own. So the only way for me to kind of face you at the end is for me to slowly but surely talk you into doing things that hurt you. But I claim I love you. It's like that. That's what's going on with Beth. It's such a low frequency based gameplay. It's more dirty than I'd argue the backdoor of Kiefer is. I think this is way dirty. This is dark arts. You feel me? This is dirty stuff going on here. Beth, you are creating a lot more enemies that are necessary for yourself. You are so polarizing and so toxic of a player. You have made Tera likable again. I'm keeping it funky in these streets. And if you're not careful, Tera, prioritizing Breydon and Tera so much, it's going to be the reason why you don't make Final 2. Because if you keep trying to protect those two, eventually, people going to go, she's not loyal to our deal. You know, if I'm Jed, I have every right, when Kiefer wins HOH next week, I have every right to keep it a bean and be like, hey, man, I'm going to keep it funky with you, hey, man. Just to cover my own six, be like, yo, that move to backdoor you, that was 100% best move. I wasn't trying to do that, bruh. You have every right to do that. But if I know Jed, he's going to try to cover for Beth and himself, and he might even try to prioritize throwing Ty under the bus. And that's what we don't want to see. And that's what it feels like Jed's late game win conditions is too. It feels like he's trying to figure out a way to screw over Ty. It feels like Beth is trying to figure out a way to screw over Ty and Jed. And it feels like Kiefer is just trying to make it there. You know what I'm saying? That's what it looks like. So, ladies and gentlemen, this has been my 21st rant. I hope y'all enjoyed this. I tried my best to incorporate both notes and freestyle entitled Kiefer's Comeback. If I had to give you all the quick little power rankings real quick, there's only 7 people left in the game, so let me just rank them. First place, Kiefer. If he gets out of this, he deserves to stay in first place for the rest of the damn game. That's how I feel. Second place, I got to give Tera credit. I got to give second place to Tera this week. I think from a power ranking standpoint, she leapfrogged a lot of people. She's realizing her win conditions. She may have to lose Tina, but now that she's alone, that might actually be good for her game because now she has less pressure on herself, technically speaking. No one expects her to make it past Final 6. This may help her win the Final 6 HOH, and if she can win that Final 6 HOH, she could very well make it to Final 3. Because if she takes out Jed, if she forces Beth to be scattered, now Beth has to prove that she is 100% loyal to Tera and Bray moving forward without Jed. Now Beth has to turn on Keith and Ty. Now this gives Tera the option to pivot with Ty and Keith, now that Beth doesn't have neither one of them. Now this creates a scenario where Kiefer and Ty and Tera become the 3 in Final 5 to take out Beth and Bray. Now the Final 3 could be a variation of Tera, Kiefer, and Ty. You never know. Or Tera and Ty might turn on Kiefer, Final 4, take Bray. Before you know it, it's Tera, Bray, and Ty. I'm giving y'all every single way this game could go down. Even though it seems as if it's very unlikely that Tera makes Final 3, I think production has an affinity for her. I think her chances are a lot higher than the average fan believes. And because of that, I am not going to be foolish enough to think that she doesn't have a chance. She has a huge chance here, especially after Tera leaves. I've seen this game too many times. I've seen the underdog too many times win out in situations like this. Tera is a legit super fan. And seeing some of the conversations that she's had alone with Ty, convincing Ty that, hey, you know, Beth and Jed are taking each other over you. You know, Ty acknowledging these things, Ty approaching Tina. If Tina before she leaves, if she at least stresses to Tera that Ty appears to be open to working with them, then that means Tera will be open to working with Ty. I believe if Tera and Ty work together, they are stronger together than Beth and Jed are. I personally believe that 100%. I think Tera is a better player than Beth because Tera didn't have to sell her box to get here. She's a better player than Beth. She's won the same amount of comps as Beth this season too now. So in my opinion, her argument to win is better than Beth's already. Beth has been carried by men the entire game. Tera has been viewed as a number on her own or next to Tina or known as a floater the entire game. Tera has had nowhere near the same type of protection. And outside of production, maybe, but you could also argue Beth has had more protection from day one than Tera. So once again, still, Tera shines brighter than Beth does. Tera has a deeper case to win. I think black fans, even though Tera has had a lot of anti-black-based gameplay this season, we would be more open to Tera winning because she would have earned it than Beth. We do not want to see a woman be given $100,000 off the backs of black male labor. We don't want to see that. And that's just how we feel. With that said, that does not mean the gameplay Beth is administering isn't good gameplay for her. In my opinion, it's a bit too dirty. It's a bit unbecoming, and I would never attempt to do something that way. And it's a bit too sinister. But with that said, I'm thankful to Beth. Because Beth made the mistake of saying way too much to Jed's face. And now it's up to Jed to deposit that information and realize that Beth does not have him in her Final 3. She might have you in her Final 4. She don't really got you in her Final 3, let alone Final 2. Clearly, because she's prioritizing Tera and Breydon so much. And for Jed's game, Tera ain't making no Final 4. And I think for his game, he's not even that happy about Breydon making his Final 4. So that means Beth, if she had it her way, she is going to dictate from Final 6 to Final 4 who goes. If I'm Jed, this is the time to pivot to guarantee my Final 4 is the best possible Final 4 for me. And if I'm Jed, I want as many legitimate threats making Final Four as possible. That way I'm not the obvious guy for all the other three to turn on. So for Jed's game, it may be best to cut Beth before Final Four. I personally believe that. We all know it's best for Ty's game. We all know it's best for Keith's game. We all know it might not be best for Bray or Tera's game. And see, that's where it shakes out. And that's why I believe when the rubble meets the road, I personally believe Kiefer will flip back and work with Ty and Tera because he will acknowledge the fact that that's the move for him. I think he has to realize this. Kiefer, your winning move is not being next to Beth. Well, not being next to Jed. Your winning move is being next to anyone not named Jed. If you could get Jed taken out, you're good. Now, in Kiefer's mind, I got to protect Jed. If I take out Jed, I don't have a shield, right? So that might make Kiefer stay loyal to this deal for one more week until Final Four. But I think once Final Four hits, it's every man for themselves. And I would love nothing more than to see no Beth at Final Four. You feel it, dig me? My ideal Final Four, ladies and gentlemen, if I'm being honest, is Beth and Breydon gone. Tera, Ty, Kiefer, Jed. That's the four that deserves it. That's the four that has earned it. Those are my thoughts, and this has been the 21st rant entitled Kiefer's Comeback, ladies and gentlemen. So if you could, please do not forget to like this video, comment underneath it for the algorithm, you know how they be, and please share this with all of the fans of Big Brother Canada 9 that you rock with, Coach. I am, of course, your humble host, Dave Smith, and this is Recency Bias Radio, where no one is safe from criticism. And I'm going to see y'all tomorrow night. Until next time.